guys go through. Wait, where'd it go? There it is. Okay, can everybody see that? Bernie, good. Okay, cool.
Yep, I see it.
All right, sweet. I gotta move all you guys though on my screen there. Okay. All right. Well, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Steve Valentine. I've been with my home group a couple years now, and I teach the random crazy stuff. My background's mostly in the investing and solving problems. I get to work with a lot of you guys, which I really enjoy, and I love giving back in this realm. So, just a few things that I wanted to mention this morning. If you guys haven't, Bernadette Espinoza, she's on the call. She's kind of my moderator, my partner in crime on the podcast. We've really enjoyed doing the podcast. There's about 16 episodes out there. It's called Thinking Outside the Box. Talk a lot about real estate, a lot of different things and ways to think outside the box to enhance your real estate business and, of course, benefit your clients and you guys as well. Bernie's going to post the link there in the comments. So if you guys would like to check that out, I think you get a lot of value out of that. We've had some really great guests between Brian North and I think Corinne Wynn. Her episode drops this week. So keep up with that. Good stuff there. Bernadette does a great job of keeping me on track. And if you guys don't know Bernie, she's with Lawyers Title. She's actually my rep at Lawyers. She has been for a couple of years now, and she's also my co-host on the podcast. So we really enjoy just kind of giving back to you guys on Fridays with that. Something new that I'm really excited to do is the text agent, the word agent to that number on the screen, 602-560-7027. That's going to be my community with you guys. I'm going to share some different random thoughts. Sometimes it's going to be real estate related. Sometimes it might be mindset related. And keeping you guys updated with classes and things like this. So if you'll do that, would love to have you guys part of the community, keep you up to date with some of that stuff. And I want to just take a minute to tell you a couple of the different agents recently. That's why I said, let's make a deal. And my cell phone number is there. Guys, a lot of times you run into situations where you're not exactly sure what to do with the property. And I'll give you a great story recently with a younger agent that's been following me. He's at my home group. He recently had a for sale by owner, which he had an unrepresented seller agreement for a 3% commission. He brought a buyer into the deal and the buyer fell through, but he had this contract with the for sale by owner. Well, he didn't really have another buyer for it. So he was going to lose all the commission that he had worked so hard on that. And he reached out and it happened to be something I would buy. So I was able to have his canceled buyer assign the contract to me. He still made his $15,000 commission at the last minute. And I was able to close on that for sale by owner. And he actually represented me as the buyer within about 7 days. So guys, when something feels like, hey, it's going to fall apart, it's going sideways, if there's some sort of solution or you think it's something, that's weird, that's just outside the box, don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call me and see if we can't make something happen and keep that commission in your pocket. It's really important. It's one of the things that I love to do. And I love to make you guys the hero at the end of the day, because I'm always investing, I'm always buying. And I think way outside the box, unlike a lot of these people, that are out there as far as the online brokers and some of these people doing their cash offers and the wholesalers. I'm not a wholesaler. I'm a buyer all the time. So just keep that in the back of your mind. If there's anything that comes up, I'm always that solution for you. All right, let's dive in. Okay, so yesterday, how many of you guys, and I'm trying to see, I can't see all of my screen here with you guys, so I'll just have to, oh wait, there it goes. Okay. Show of hands, for those of you that are on screen, how many of you guys have actually used the additional clause addendum and gone into backup position, either on your listings or with a buyer? Anybody done this? Okay, couple of you. Guys, this is the most unutilized tool in our industry right now. And I don't know if any of you guys have seen this recently, but my partner Erica, that handles all of our contracts here in my office, she's seeing a lot more offers get accepted and fall through, because I think people are throwing a lot of shit against the wall and they're hoping it sticks and then it falls through. So what's the best position to be in? To be honest with you, it's the best position to be in the backup position at this point, because the likelihood there's more fallout rate right now than we've seen in over a year. So, it's one of those things that we had 17 offers yesterday. And what I have on the screen right now is the most common responses. And if you're using these responses, it's not doing your buyer any good and you're not servicing your client to the fullest extent. So these are emails that I cut and pasted that I saw come back. We had 17 offers on a property. We accepted one. And I'll tell you, the one that we accepted is a total gamble. They offered way over list. They have a 5-day inspection period. I'm telling you right now, it's a gamble. The seller knows it's a gamble. The likelihood, it's got a 50-50 shot of it staying together. Here's the point to that. Every one of these other 16 offers that got rejected, not one of them asked to be in backup position. They do these emails. Thanks for letting me know. Please keep me as backup. That is not a backup offer. I don't know how anybody expects a listing agent in this market to remember the 17 offers that we got and who to go back to. Thanks for letting me know. If anything changes, keep us in mind. Remember to keep the offer in case the buyer fails or changes his mind. Guys, all three of these people had very good and close offers to the accepted offer, but not one of them is taking the next step to put something in backup. So the comment that you guys should be using is, hey, what does it take to be in backup position? And that's the real question, because sometimes your offer may not have been exactly what they were looking for, but as a listing agent, we will counter and share the terms that we're willing to accept a backup offer. And, so you need to start having those conversations with the listing agents. And if you're a listing agent, same thing, how do you provide leverage for your client by utilizing the backup offer? Because let's face it, any of us that are dealing with listings right now, it's a lot of work to go through all these offers. And it just sucks once you have something go awry and then have to go to market and go back through all these offers again. So it's really a great, I don't know what I just did. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to shift this around. Okay.
Steve, a question
Yes.
for you from Barbara. When you are in the backup, do you have to disclose if you're submitting offers on additional properties?
No. So give me just a second. It's going to be in my next point when I get to this. So I'll answer that a little bit clearly. So how many backup offers can your buyer have at one time? You can have 20 of them out there, to be honest with you, because they're backup offers. So something has to cancel and fall through, and you have to be notified. And once you're notified, then you can opt in or opt out, which is basically saying, yes, we want to move forward, or no, we don't. So the buyer's not obligated to that backup offer. That's the greatest thing about having the backups, so I try to guide my buyers, for any of you guys that are doing buyer consults when you first start, which I highly recommend, I tell my buyers that, hey, even though we might lose an offer, if you're really interested in the house, let's always take the next step and do a backup offer. It just takes one additional piece of paper, which is the additional clause addendum, the backup position checked on it. And now you're automatically in line to have an accepted offer if anything falls apart. Now, if we shift that and you're the listing agent, it's beneficial for your seller to have that backup offer, because you can utilize that as leverage when somebody's giving you a stupid Benzer and some other stuff, and you tell someone, hey, we've got a backup offer. We're just going to go ahead and not do this, because now you have leverage when it comes down to the backup offer. Now, you do want to make sure before you utilize that leverage that you're reaching out to that agent that has the backup offer, making sure that, hey, is that client still engaged? Do they still want this property? So make sure that if you are going to use it as leverage, that you still are, in touch with that agent. And when you do have a backup offer, it's it's a really good idea to shoot out an email every 5 days, just kind of see where things are going, and following up that agent, because it's going to show your engagement in the backup position as well. So, and for the listing, so like Erica, yesterday we had 17 offers. Well, she took the next offer that was best, and she negotiated it through to backup. So now we have a backup offer and we have the other offer, but it keeps us from having to go back to market and collect another 15 offers on that property, because we have something that's solid. We've been able to negotiate it through a little bit and come up with the terms that we wanted if they want to be in that backup position. So it does give you some leverage by utilizing that, whether it's on your listings or with your buyer. So what constitutes a legitimate backup offer? It's not an email saying, hey, keep us in backup. That doesn't do anything. Okay. And you're not servicing your client to the best of your ability by doing that either. So a legitimate backup offer is, once you've received that reject in, we've accepted another offer, you want to go back and say, okay, well, we want to be in backup position. So what terms do we need to meet to be in backup position, so that you can adjust the offer, and then you send the additional clause addendum, which is this right here. Have you guys all used this? I think I already asked that once. Okay. Most of us are using this to waive appraisals and things like that. But this backup contract, contingent upon cancellation or prior contract, this is the best thing in the world, because once this is executed, the selling agent is going to send you an executed contract with this addendum. And no inspection periods or timelines start until there's written notification that you are now in first position. So it's a way to keep working through some of the buyers and having some irons in the fire for them, because I think there's a really good chance in the current market, with the amount of stuff that's being thrown against the wall, that you could end up winning a backup offer and not having to go back and fight. And there's nothing better than getting that phone call and saying, from the listing agent saying, hey, I just want to let you know the buyer's just canceled, their financing fell through, you're in first position, are you ready to go? Like that is the best thing in the world at the end of the day. So what's the result of doing this? Yes, it's a little bit more work. You definitely have a little bit more follow-up when it comes down to utilizing the backup offer, but the result is this. Last year, we had 13 clients totaling $192,000 in commissions that all came from being in backup position. Some of these people won their dream home by being in backup position because, a buyer got overzealous with their inspections and the seller didn't want to do it. And we were able to work through it. So, what I want you guys to see is, like, the backup offer could add, 10 grand a month to your bottom line by having these backup offers out there. And it's also a way for you guys to show your skill set against other agents that, hey, this is why we're doing it. This is how we're doing it, because it's a tough market out there. But a lot of agents are not doing backup offers properly, and showing your clients how that works so that they can eventually win something, because it's emotional, financial train wreck out there right now with the buyers, and I hate saying that. I don't know about you guys, but some of the conversations that I've had to have with buyers recently to tell people that are fully qualified with down payments that they're not ready to buy hurts right now. But I've also told them to be prepared, for the right thing to come up. But for other buyers, it's been, we have one buyer that has 8 backup offers out there, and you just keep putting them out there until something pops. And that's the way you're truly going to win for your client in this market with the backup offers.
Hey, Steve.
Yep.
Question from Bobby. Did you say you negotiate terms first before submitting the additional clause addendum?
Yes. So it's kind of a verbal conversation with the listing agent, or an email. Hey, we lost the offer, but what do we need to do to be in backup position? Like, what are the favorable terms that will you counter it? Sometimes the listing agent will counter it to clean it up. And the hard thing, guys, is that sometimes you're going to have to push the listing agent, because a lot of listing agents are not really good about this backup offer stuff. So they don't even understand it. So it's, sometimes you have to do the work. It's one of the things my dad always taught me in this business is that, you need to act as if you're the only agent in the transaction. And sometimes with backup offers, if they rejected it, well, then send the offer back with the backup offer and get them to counter and accept it as a backup offer. Any other questions in there, Bernie? No, that's it.
That's all so far.
Okay, so that's in a crux. So I'm going to open this up to you guys, for questions, answers. We can stay up on the backup offer, or you can utilize this for any other time. For me, I've got 45 minutes. So my time is yours. It's scheduled. The backup offer is pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but I think it's a tool you guys need to utilize and really work towards, because it's going to help your clients, and obviously it's going to help you as well.
I have a question for you.
Yep.
Do you have any buyers that don't understand why the whys behind the backup offer, or that are apprehensive about it? Like, how do you get through that with them?
I think the biggest apprehension is, am I stuck with this house if it comes back? And, the answer is always no. It's more of a shotgun approach, right? I can have a backup offer here or there, and you're not stuck with it. But if it does come back, then you have the ultimate say so. We can go back and look at the house and make sure, whatever the case may be. So it's just making sure the buyer doesn't feel like they're stuck and they can't write any more offers on it. So it's in how we explain the backup offer to them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if it comes back and you've been rejected and you get the new terms, is it best to rewrite your contract totally, or just do a counter offer?
It's fine just to do a counter offer, because all you're doing is countering the offer and then having the backup addendum to clean it up. So you don't need to redraft an entire new offer.
Okay.
Can you go over kind of what you say to explain to the buyers? I mean, kind of in non-agent speak, like how do you explain that to buyers when, like, the process of a backup offer?
So I'll walk you through my initial buyer consult. So when I'm talking with a buyer, we're going through and laying it out like, hey, we're going to go through 4 to 5 offers potentially before we actually get something under contract. But in that time, if there's a house that you really like and it fell through, we can work through the backup position. So then walking them through that, which means, hey, there's a likelihood that somebody has an inspection and appraisal and financing, and the likelihood of something falling apart might be like a 25% chance. So let's take the time and put this in as backup. It's a couple extra pieces of paper. We'll leave it sit, and maybe we get lucky. It's kind of like winning the lottery, and that's what I tell them. And I'd rather put a little more effort in on your behalf, knowing that that's sitting there. And if something falls apart, we automatically slide into that position without having to run back to the house if it goes back on the market after it falls through. So that's kind of the way I explain that to them. Don't make me sing. Or I'm going to start telling stories. Okay, then I'm going to open this question up. What's everybody's greatest challenge in the current market? You guys can either comment below or unmute yourself, and let's just kind of have a conversation about it.
I can share mine. Most recently this week is, I feel like one of my sellers that was going to be a buyer started experiencing a lot of buyer fatigue, and decided to, you're aware of this person, decided not to act on an off-market, purchase, which I think would have been a really great opportunity for them, but they're VA buyers. I feel like I'm going over my consultation, trying to go through what I can learn from this. Maybe I didn't set a necessary expectation, but they just came back to me and said, look, the market is so crazy right now. We've talked to our friends, we've talked to our family and other professionals, and we just want to get off the market. And I think that, some people just aren't prepared to be in this market, but I don't necessarily know how to set that expectation, or if you have any feedback.
So yes, I do know that. By the way, guys, blah, 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 blah. Why did your name just drew a blank? It did it again.
Jillian.
Jillian, that's what I thought. I was going to say it, then I was scared to say it. But hey, Jillian's kind of a cool story. So she heard me on a podcast and she actually drove over to my office, gave me a thank you card and a Starbucks card, and we kind of connected. And then I had this off market that would work for her client. We've been going back and forth this week about it. I've got a soft spot for VA buyers because I know they're just having their asses handed to them right now. But we were working through this situation on this particular house that I currently own that we're remodeling. So Jillian, go back to what the conversation, because up until a week ago, they were all in, they were excited about it. You showed them the house. What is some of the stuff that they told you as to why they want to back off? Oh, you went mute.
All right. I will just explain. I'll just read because it's better for me just to kind of read it so I don't miss anything. But essentially, they were super on board. And what I found was like they were really super excited about this house, but then they would keep kind of surfing the apps and finding things that were outside their price range or outside of the initial, expectation they set with me. So like they went and found something for like $497. And I was like, look, this is at the very tip top of your budget and way above what you initially said you wanted to do. But essentially they just said, I'm about 99% sure that because of this crazy seller's market, we might just rent a house or apartment. I'm not ready to pay the kind of money for any house right now. Maybe rent for a year to see if it ever becomes a buyer's market again. I will let you know in advance today, so everyone has a heads up. And then I had to follow up with you and cancel our meeting. But essentially how I tried to handle the objection was like, hey, I understand that what you might be feeling is some buyer fatigue. It seems like there's been a little bit of uncertainty with the direction you want to go. You're concerned about, finding and seeing value in this, property that you want to get under contract with. And I think it was a little bit of a stretch for them is what they kind of communicated to me, like seeing the potential. And I can get that, but I had to literally break down, this is like average market price for interior and exterior paint. This is how much new flooring costs per square foot. This is, all these different things, what, the going rate for a new HVAC unit is. And I just think they were maybe having some challenges seeing the value. Once I broke that down for them, they seemed fine, but then I just got a text out of nowhere. And so that's kind of, I was just like, what?
So the hard part with some of these people is, and this is my fear, and this is what I've told some people, is that we all have to do a better job up front when we first start with a buyer of explaining to them the road they're about to go down, because it's a financial and emotional preparation to understand what's going to happen, because they're going to lose houses. I told somebody the other day, I'm like, look, we're going to spend the next 6 months looking at houses, and one of two things: if you're not ready for this, you're going to hate the home buying process and you're going to hate me at the end of it, and I have no control over it. So I would rather you not do anything and rent and be prepared than to emotionally bang your head against the wall and not like this process. But, we have to go back and have the conversation. Like Jillian's clients, they want to go rent. Does everybody know where the rental market is right now? Okay. The rental market is just as much of a shit show as the for sale market. The rents are up almost 30%, in the last 18 months. I can't believe the amount of rents that we're collecting in El Mirage and Metro Center. And I mean, it's insanity. In fact, Jillian, I think that the house we just rented in El Mirage for $1,800 would probably be pretty close to where your client's mortgage payment would be on that $470,000 house. So, the clients really need to understand that going out to rent when they can buy is not the smartest thing to do at the end of the day. So we need to kind of be armed with some of that data. And if you guys haven't looked at what current rents are, make sure that you kind of know where things are right now, because that's going to be really important. I can tell you just brief overview. The average house that I have in my portfolio right now is renting for $1,700 a month, and that is a 3-2 one-car garage at 35th Avenue in Union Hills. It is nothing special, and to get what you can for a mortgage. So it depends on what somebody wants to fight for. And, we all have that ability to fight for those clients, but at some point in time, we do kind of have to let the clients, push back and hold off. And I feel bad for them because they didn't even understand what they had, because I was willing to take the VA offer. We were doing a bunch of repairs on the house. It was off market. They didn't have to fight. I mean, Jillian did a really good job, bolstering that relationship and finding that house for them, and then they don't get it. And unfortunately, that's a real hard part of our business at the end of the day.
I think I'm probably going to follow up our initial conversation, because I went over this is where your interest rate is at. This is what, your payment would be. Even if we see the trends continuing that are going now, even if your percentage goes up by 1%, it's going to make this much of a difference in your mortgage payment. And that's kind of what I went for. And I said, I don't want to see you get priced out of a home by missing out on a really great opportunity. But I do think I want to kind of reiterate the rental information. Where do you get all your information, by the way? I mean, I listen to your podcast and I follow you, but where do you find this out for yourself? So that we can kind of tap into that, as far as rental markets and things.
To be honest with you, my stuff is just through experience because of the rental properties that I own. But if you guys ever need any information on rentals or pricing or those types of things, or you're looking for a property management referral, Bernie, if you can put Karen's information, I'll text it to you real quick. Karen's our property manager at VSM. If you guys ever have any questions like, hey, what's the average rent? What does it look like? Their website's got lots of great information. It's valentineteam.com, I think. Don't quote me on that. But that's probably the best place. And then you can also get some stats through Armless, but I usually kind of go straight to the horse's mouth, with getting stuff from Karen on what that looks like. And I think the other point, Jillian, that I think is really important, guys, is that so many people are so fixated on price right now. And I don't care so much about price, because we all know price is going to go up and down, right? Even if the market backs off 10%, it's kind of a fake 10% as far as I'm concerned right now. You know what I'm more concerned about? I'm more concerned about the asset of having a 3% fixed 30-year mortgage. Because if the rates go up to 4 and the price comes down, it's not going to change the price any. But the long term of having that rate locked in where it's at is an asset in itself, and it keeps the payments lower. So even if the prices come down 10% and the interest rates go up, you're not going to be any better off at all. And I'll be honest with you, seeing what I'm seeing, I don't see that there's any end in sight in the near future of where our prices are going. As scary as that is, I'm shocked at where we're at. And guys, I've lived through, it's scary to think that 13 years ago, some of the houses that I'm paying $300,000 for now, I sold for $50,000 13 years ago. It's a little scary to comprehend, but with what the country's doing, what our economy's doing, and the amount of infrastructure that is coming here, we're in for a wild ride. And I'd be trying to secure what I could And I think that, on that note, securing what you can, how many of you guys have these buyers that have this great big dream in their head, and then you kind of have to be the dream crusher and go, well, that's not going to happen for that price. I do. Yeah, right. All of us. But I do think it's in our best to try to guide them into, hey, what if we went a little further west? Like, sorry, Jillian, I keep picking on you, but I still think about those people. I'm like, hey, you guys are maxing out at 470. Well, why don't we try to go to Surprise? I know it's a little bit further drive, but at least we can get a lower priced house for the same size and look at that option. Yes, you're going to drive. And the old saying is, drive till you qualify, right? So you're driving out to Buckeye, you're driving out to Surprise, you're driving out to Santan Valley. Like, that's where those low to mid 300s are, or you're buying a very small house. So people are going to have to make some concessions. And, I hate saying it because we've never been in this position, but it's kind of like how California used to be, right? You got to buy an hour away from where you work in order to afford it. And you're just going to have to drive and take that on. And renting, it isn't solving the problem because it's the same price. So it's more and more conversations that we're, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm having a hard time adjusting the conversation. Even for a lot of the stuff up north in Flagstaff and Munns Park, we're seeing it's worse up there than it is down here. And we're seeing 30, 40 offers per house up there. And it's heartbreaking, but unless you want to jump all in, don't bother. And I think those are the realistic conversations we have to have with people, or we have to give them alternative solutions on, hey, well, maybe we can go a little further west or a little further east, or we need to buy a smaller home in order to get what you want, and start backtracking some of that stuff.
Steve, I've been doing that quite a bit where I do my buyer consults. I kind of show them so I had a client that said, I want 300, Mesa, Chandler, whatnot. And I was like, okay. So I went that day. I was at with another client, put him on a new build in Maricopa. And I'm like, hey, there's like 7 houses here that we could look at under 300. It's like, I think we should go take a look at these. No, that's too far, but we've expanded our search. We can go to Tempe now. Okay, well, that's not going to get us anything at 300. So I went ahead and did this. I went and showed him all the houses, and I'm sure most of us are doing it, but went and showed him all the houses that were 300 in the Mesa, Chandler, Gilbert area. And then I showed them the one new build that I was talking about. And they're like, oh my gosh, we love the shower. And I said, well, it doesn't hurt us. Let's just take a drive. I'm like, you guys are 23. Like, you got to start somewhere. You got to build some equity somewhere. Like, I lived here for 8 years, and I loved it here. The drive was like my sanity, just to drive back and like calm down for the day and whatever. And so we took them out. They loved it. They're like, this isn't that far after all. We just have heard all these driving horror stories and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, but guess what? This isn't here forever. You're going to build something here, come back in, and we'll buy something later. So they signed a contract. I took them to see one house, and we were done. But I think if we don't set that expectation for these people and they get to know it already in advance, they think that they can still buy a 300 house that was 2 or 3 years ago, and that's just not what's happening. But if we don't show them that, then we do get them tired and frustrated.
Yeah, that's awesome. You gave me a reminder of one of the things that I've really been trying to do with people, especially guys when Jillian's client, anybody of these clients that are looking in that lower price range, guys, this doesn't have to be a forever house. Mm-hmm. And if we can get our clients to understand what the next step is, so Jillian, I'm going to pick on you again. If they were like, hey, okay, we can buy this house and our payment's going to be $2,000 a month. Okay. If in a year that same house rents for $2,500 a month. So now let's take it a step further, which is what, I've really built my business on, is trying to teach people how to build wealth. That's one of the things as agents we need to do a better job at, because it's going to increase our income and it's going to increase our clients' wealth at the end of the day. Is, hey, what if we just bought this house and in a year, the market dips? Let's go back to Jillian's client. Well, we're going to wait till, it's more of a buyer's market. Great. So in the meantime, the interest rates have gone up, the price has gone up. Even if the price has gone down, But like I said, if the price goes up or down, it doesn't matter, especially if you're going to keep it long term. If the object is never to sell it, but to keep it as a rental, and VA buyer, you got in for nothing down, like really? Like it doesn't make any sense to me where, and part of that is probably some family member. We call them Uncle Louis. They get involved in something they have no idea because they bought a house 10 years ago and they don't have a freaking clue. But start having the conversation and asking them and saying, hey, look, I know the market's kind of crazy, but what if we can just get you into a house for a couple of years and we're going to keep that as a rental property and then we're going to go buy something else? You know, so this doesn't have to be forever. This is a starting point, but I want you to start to build your wealth, because what if in 15 years you moved 3 times and you had $1 million worth of real estate at the end of that? How great would that make you feel? So now we're shifting the conversation and getting people to look at that conversation. And you can always start the conversation. Do you know what the wealthiest people in the world have in common? They're all wealthy from real estate. And it wasn't because they sold anything, it's because they owned it, right? Same conversation all of you guys should be having with yourselves, you know, in this current market as opportunities come up. It doesn't matter what the market's doing, right? There's opportunities out there. Dan, can you get on? Can you unmute yourself? Dan's got a story. I don't know if he's going to unmute or not. He might be in the middle of something. Guys, this is kind of how this operates. So, you know, I've worked with Jillian a little bit. Dan texted me 2 weeks ago. I happened to be in Deep Mesa, and he was just wanting to learn some of the stuff. So if you guys don't know, we acquired about 50, 60 homes last year. Several of those came from you guys at my home group, Solving Problems. I want to make sure that you guys see how this works. So Dan called me, texted me through Facebook. He's like, hey, I've got this appointment. This lady just wants to sell. And he wasn't really sure exactly what to do with it. So he asked me to come in and work with him on this particular acquisition. It was a great story, though. We showed up, we walked in. I think he was totally unprepared for what he saw, but this is preparation. So we went in, and the gal literally came to the table. She says, what do you got? What are you guys going to give me for my house? So I did a quick walk. We looked at it. We offered the lady a price. She took it. She signed the contract right there at the counter. We probably bought that at about 75 cents on the dollar. Dan gets a pretty sweet commission now, but plus he's getting a percentage, and we're walking through the deal so he understands how the acquisition and the solution works. Most of us are walking in the door, and Dan he was texting me. He's like, hey, what should I be prepared for? Nothing, because we don't know what the scenario is yet. So we walked in, there wasn't any preparation needed. It was just a quick, she wanted an offer. But Dan reached out because he wanted to know how it was done. So I worked with him on how it was done, so he knows what it looks like the next time he ends up in an appointment like that. So I just want you guys to know that, you know, on those things that are kind of weird, kind of outside the box, you know, let me help you with it. There's a lot of money to be made in this business, and there's a lot of opportunity out there that sometimes we try to tie to just representing a buyer or seller. And I'm always that cash investor that just isn't a cash investor, because I'm not going to treat you like most cash investors do. I can see something pretty quick in about 5 minutes as to whether or not it makes sense. And it's going to be pretty simple. Dan must not be unmutable right now.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, what's up, brother?
Hey, Steve. Thanks again for going on with me.
Of course.
But yeah,
you have anything to add to my story on that?
It's just finding solutions, man, to people's problems, and sometimes their solution is a huge win for you as well. I think that's my biggest takeaway. That conversion was, I mean, I was baffled as far as how easy that was, knowing what you need to do. But I think that client was, you know, she was kind of beat down. Maybe she was ready to get rid of that place, and you offered the solution for her that was a win-win for everybody, you know. So just another reminder that this business is just filled with amazing opportunities if you know what you're doing, and that's why I reached out to you, because you know what you're doing, and I just want to learn, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to work with you, Dan. I'm looking forward to doing some more. Guys, on that note, is anybody struggling with, I've got a buyer that needs to sell and they're on the fence about selling because they can't find something to buy? Anybody having that issue? Anybody want to give me a scenario I can help you walk through?
I have a question. I have I have some VA buyers that are like qualified up to 350. They've they wanted East Valley at first. Like last October, they were looking for Gilbert. That isn't going to happen now, up to 350. But they're looking in Mesa, Santan, all this stuff, and we've made lots of offers, and what we're getting is, well, we accepted an offer that's waiving the appraisal, waiving the inspection, waiving this, waiving that. Can you do cash over? And it's like, I don't know what to tell them. I need some help.
Yeah. There's no great answer to that. Solving the problem for the VA buyers is really hard right now because they almost can't compete unless, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. I know what we've been able to do for our VA buyers, but it's extremely complicated. We've ended up buying houses for the VA buyers and selling them back to them afterwards. Okay. But it's a super complicated process and it doesn't work for everybody. And some of the VA buyers that we've worked with, they've been friends for a really long time. So I'm not going to take random people and go buy them houses. As much as I'd like to be like Oprah and here, you get a house and you get a house. That just doesn't work for everybody. So I've got to protect my investor funds that are here. I think the big thing with somebody like that is really trying to figure out if there's, number one, backup positions may work. Are you doing any letters? Yep.
But then I was just on a call a couple of days ago that said, and it was commissioner or code of ethics, and they said, stop doing those letters. And I go, really? Because I think they work. But
they do work. But I know. But one of the things that we've had some success in, this was actually Bernadette's idea, and it worked out really well. I got permission from the family, and the same letter you've been sending to the agents. Mm-hmm. We took that same letter, but we redrafted it to a subdivision that they were looking for specifically. And it said, hey, we're the Kenny family, and we're looking for the specific subdivision. Here's our picture. If you're thinking about selling, we'd really like the opportunity. And then will you please reach out to our agent? And then it had our information. Now, there was a lot of work to those letters because we got permission to do the return address as their home address, and we sent it out to the subdivision. Believe it or not, we just inked a deal off market for that family after 6 months of fighting that subdivision. We got a few hate mails and a few hate text messages. Those are always fun to play with, but point being is that it's a little bit more work, but it's also something that might work for that, because now you're talking about a military family, and not everybody is keen to this market as we think they are. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not. Okay. So, you might take a subdivision and just try it, get some letters out there, get a farm, and send some stuff out and see. But the buyers need to know, like, hey, you don't get a whole lot of choice to be too picky here. And guys, I think it's one of those things too that I think is hard and it's important with buyers. Are you guys all using buyer broker agreements?
Yes.
Are you charging people?
No.
And here's why I'm putting this to you in this, I understand, we're leaving it in the listing broker's hands as to what we're going to get paid. So you really need to think about how much you value your service and how much time and effort you're going to put in for those types of buyers if they're willing to pay. And it's a different conversation right now. We're having a lot of conversations with buyers that, hey, the selling agent is going to offer me 2 to 2.5%, and we charge between 3.5% and 4% in this current market because of this. And if it's okay if you want to go find somebody else, but these are the results that we've had, and kind of going through that. And you can always add it to closing costs and things like that. But I do think it's a good conversation that you're having with your buyers that, guys, we're doing a shit ton of work. It's almost worse than the days of when I got into the business and we had to go show 20 houses on a Saturday.
Right.
This is even worse. So, we need to be careful with how much time we're going to devote to buyers in this current market. Not that I want to give up on buyers, but a buyer's got to be all in with me or else I'm all out, because
Right.
it's so much work. So I think you all need to be cautious because you chase, you spend a lot of good energy against bad time at the end of the day. So we need to be a little bit more cautious and a little bit more picky. It doesn't mean though that you're just tossing buyers to the side. It does mean that you're kind of helping them weed through whether or not it's the right time for them to get in the market. And it's okay to have that conversation and still keep in touch with them. One of the things that I like to do is keeping the buyers prepared for the right thing to come along. So I utilize a lot of like off-market properties and things like that. Like, hey, we may not find something looking through MLS, but when the right thing comes along, you need to be ready to pull the trigger when that happens.
They would
And
really
that's-
like to buy a house for under like 350 or under with a pool. And I said, what if we look at something without a pool? What if we look at something with a community pool? What if we, and it's like, I've tried to, it's like, you just don't seem to understand.
$22 at Ace Hardware, you can get a pool. Okay, so one other thing too that I want to touch on that I think it's important, you guys, on, I know we talked about the backup offers, but let's talk about one more thing. We've got a house in Chandler right now that went on the market at 350. We had 19 offers on it. It went all the way up to 390, and then buyer backed out. Here's the thing. The house actually had some extreme termite damage. Like there was a couple of truss members that, had some termite damage, nothing major, but buyers are still doing this. Like, I want to be picky about condition of the house when they win something, and they're not willing to go, okay, well, what's interesting about that is that we went back to one of the buyers after it canceled, and we had a 390 offer. They had offered 370. Swear to God, there's like maybe 10 grand worth of termite damage and paint and carpet that needs to be done. And the buyer still, we came all the way back down to 355, and the buyer still doesn't want to take it. So the buyers in some sense are being unreasonable as well, because they feel like they're paying top dollar for something, but they're not looking a gift, with that. So we need to help guide them through that process of, hey, we're going to take this on. It's not a big deal. The house is still standing. Termites can only eat so much, right? But I think that is an important part that we try to help the buyers understand condition of properties, and don't let this one go, because once we get it under contract, there's you don't want to go back out and fight the market over a couple $1,000s worth of stuff.
Thank you so much for that.
Hey, you're welcome.
I have one last question. Any
Yeah.
advice from anyone? As far as clients that might be using like down payment assistance and things like that, like how does that conversation look like for you guys? Because it's one I'm having to have, because it came from a different realtor that didn't set an expectation. and they were frustrated and upset, and it got handed to me from a friend, and I'm like, ooh. So any advice?
We have to be very upfront and honest with people. And I would rather somebody be irritated with me than to go through the process. I just did this with a buyer. We actually fired a buyer because they were using down payment assistance. We wrote offers, they weren't listening. I'm like, you know what? You don't have the cash reserves to compete. You're better off either renting until you're ready, or can you get some money from relatives? What are the alternative solutions? And if there isn't, it's okay to tell them, hey, you know what? I might not be the best fit for you in this market, but I can tell you that it's going to be a really tough road, and you probably should spend some time getting prepared, for and waiting for it, than dragging them around for 6 months and then just getting frustrated. And that's, I mean, how hard is it I just had a conversation with a buyer recently. They're qualified to 450. They're putting 5% down. And I told them they really, and they want to buy in the Desert Ridge, Northeast Phoenix. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, MLS is not going to get us where we need to be, but you guys need to stay qualified and you need to stay prepared so that if something off market pops up, and you need to be nimble, right? You need to be flexible. It might not be the perfect house, but it could be a house when that comes up. But for you guys, if I go out and show you 10 houses over the next couple of months, the likelihood of you getting any one of those is going to be very slim. And it's hard conversation. Like, I cannot believe a year later that I'm having that conversation with somebody, and it breaks my heart. It really does. Like, we have the worst job in the world right now. It's like telling a kid they can't have candy at the store. And but again, I would rather be completely upfront and honest with somebody than to give them false hope. I think we have an important job right now not to give false hope to people. But here's the other piece that I'll finish with this. I never believed in this until about 5 years ago, and more so recently over the last couple of years. Giving back to the industry and spending time with you guys on calls like this and doing the podcasts, it builds relationship amongst peers. And your relationships inside this industry is going to go further than any piece of lead gen or any advertising or anything that you can do in this business. And I mean that because, I've got a relationship with Dan and we're doing something. And if you don't think that if Dan writes an offer on another listing that I have after the opportunity he brought me and we worked through, if you don't think I'm like, that's not going to stand out in the next offer go round, you're sadly mistaken. Jillian reached out, and even though her client backed out, she reached out through a relationship from a podcast she heard and established this relationship and found a house for a client that was off market that we worked through it. So the relationship inside this industry is so critical to your success, and it's going to be critical when it comes down to multiple offers and things like that. So make sure that you're thinking about that. Simple thank you cards and little things that we can do. In my side of the business, I believe that talking to you guys, thanking you guys on the cross sale side, calling you out on Instagram, different things, those are ways that I'm trying to give back and also, keep you guys close, because I'm going to need that favor eventually. And you guys the same, that favor is going to come calling in one of these times. So just keep that in mind, that the relationship inside this industry is really, really important. So don't spout off to too many agents when you lose an offer, because they may not come back for that backup offer. I learned that the hard way early on in my career. Bernie, anything else in the box there?
I think you addressed everything. Barbara said, how do we not feel like we are talking our clients out of being clients? But I think you kind of covered that.
Well, because we need to be the guide, right? That's our job. We need to guide through information and facts and ask questions And the more questions we ask, the more they're going to guide themselves to their own conclusion. So asking questions like, hey, are you prepared, for this road? Are you prepared to pay above list price? Because I had somebody tell me the other day, well, I'm not paying 20 grand over list price. I'm like, cool, you should be buying a house right now. Right? So we have to ask the right questions to get them to where we want them to be. And that's how we guide them. And we still keep in touch with them. You still got to up them, because you know what? You want that person, just because you're telling them it's not the right time, doesn't mean you don't stay in touch with them and you don't keep feeding them information and letting them know that, hey, this is what's going on, or this is what I'm seeing, or hey, whatever. I think that's the important part. Because guess what? Even if they're not a buyer, guess what? They might know somebody that's a buyer. They might refer somebody because you are honest and upfront and you're trying to solve their problem. So try to figure out this problem you can solve for them, whether it's a rental or it's timing or whatever. And that's going to be your greatest resource down the road.
Steve, one of the things too that I just had to do a buyer consult training for my team leads team. Long story short, some of the agents that work directly with me have been losing their buyers because they're not setting that expectation. And you're going to hate me. Like, it's rough out there. I'm going to be black and blue, that kind of thing. Like, you're going to be black and blue. They're just simply being door openers. Right. And so we're out there being door openers and they don't understand what I'm doing because I haven't even shared how I'm looking at their emails that are coming on a daily basis for them and shooting them off to them. And so people are losing people because they think I'm not working hard enough. And I say but this is what I had to train on. I was like, you have to let them know how hard it is out there. And you have to let them know, just because you go from me to Jillian doesn't mean that Jillian's not going to do the same things that I was doing. It's not a reflection of my work. I'm doing the best that I can do for you. It's just the market.
Yep.
If we don't set that expectation already, they're going to keep jumping to every one of us. Before you know it, we've worked. And now they thought that we couldn't do it. And they've gone to another agent. And now,
yeah, expectation is everything.
Right.
Hey,
All right, guys.
Steve, don't forget about Karen's phone number.
Oh yeah. Let me just give this to you guys real quick. Karen's the office number is 602-866-0150. That's for the property management company. So if you guys have any needs there, she's more than happy to help. They're absolutely incredible. And if you guys aren't following me on Instagram, it's at Steve D Valentine. That's where I kind of give a lot of free tips and hints and lots of shenanigans going on with what's happening there. And if I can do anything for you guys, feel free to reach out, through all those social channels. And if there was any value today, if you can tag me on Instagram, I would appreciate whatever value you got out of it. So I appreciate you guys. Until next time, see ya. Thanks, Bernie.